It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood, from coast to coast, and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. For 4 years, Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has been bringing you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Today's guest, Jessica Cox, was born without arms. Jessica could have spent her life using that fact as an excuse to feel sorry for herself or to set low expectations for herself. Instead of taking that path, Jessica chose to challenge herself and has learned to swim, surf, scuba dive, drive a car, and even fly an airplane. Jessica has earned 2 black belts in Taekwondo and has graduated from college. She holds the title of the first person without arms to get a black belt in American Taekwondo and the Guinness World Record for the first pilot to fly with her feet. Jessica lives independently and uses her feet in ways others who take their hands for granted can only imagine. Jessica, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Jessica, I have seen your work and I've seen all of the accomplishments that you've had in your life. And to be honest, you've accomplished more than most people can only dream about. Have you always been an overachiever?
I think it started at a very early age when I was probably held back for my own safety. I wanted to do something anyways. So I went out there even as early as 5 to 6 years old. I was out there doing things and taking chances and exploring new opportunities.
Tell us a little bit about your life. What was it like for you to grow up without arms?
Well, it's somewhat difficult to explain that because this is all I've ever known, and from day one, I was obviously born without arms, so that was the very beginning for me. And I did have an older brother, Jason, and a younger sister, Jackie, who both had arms. So I guess that's what I could probably compare it to. And in the early years, probably 2, 3, 4, 5, when I was starting to notice how different I really was from my brother and sister and my friends, it was difficult, and I couldn't understand as a child why I was different. And I think it turned not being able to understand turned a lot of times into anger and frustration. And I had a few tantrums, and I went to my mom often, would ask her, why am I in this situation? Why I'd ask, why did God make me like this? And she'd always say, what, God has a plan for everything and for everyone. And I held on to that answer that she gave me as a child, and sure enough, it became reality. And it's amazing how many things I've been able to do now and the lives I've been able to touch, definitely as part of God's plan.
I would definitely agree with you. God had a very special plan in mind for you. Jessica, when you were young, did you wear prosthetic arms?
I did. I actually was first fitted with prosthetics at the age of 3, and I wore them for 11 years. Of course, they came from good intentions of wanting to provide me with the same faculties that everyone can use. But from the very beginning, wearing these prosthetics was foreign to me, and they actually were more awkward to use than to use my own feet, because with my feet I could feel, I could touch, I could have all the senses, and as opposed to with the prosthetics, they were made out of plaster, and they had metal hooks on the end of them, but I wore them for 11 years, and I trained how to use them and to do things right, eat, and do all that. But in the end, I came to the decision that I was better the way that God had created me. And I decided to leave them behind. When I was old enough to make that choice, I decided to keep the prosthetics at home and go to school without them. And that was probably one of the best decisions. And from that day forward, I have never put them on.
I've heard you say that your brain is wired to your feet. How did you learn to use your feet so proficiently? I mean, I've seen you put your contact lenses in with your toes.
Well, that is so hard to explain, but I think it's partly because of adaptation. And from, the beginning, I didn't have the hands and arms. so immediately my brain communicated with my feet, and that was my way of exploring the world. I would, as a child, I'd reach and feel things and grab things with my feet because that's what I had. I didn't have the arms and hands there that most babies use when they're exploring the world, feeling things and grabbing a hold of toys and putting them in their mouth. I had my feet to explore the world, and so I often just scoot around. I didn't learn how to crawl, obviously, so I would scoot around and rolled a few times before I learned how to scoot, and that was my way of mobility before I learned how to walk.
Jessica, you're a pilot. Why did you learn to fly a plane? And I love the slogan that you have, you don't need wings to fly. Why did you accomplish this?
Well, flying honestly was my greatest fear, flying in an airplane. And so you're probably wondering, well, why would you fly then and become a pilot? Well, I remember this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "Identify your greatest fear and walk directly at it." And I later learned what fear, F-E-A-R, actually stands for. And someone defined fear as false evidence appearing real. And that's what fear, F-E-A-R, stands for. For me, it was tackling my greatest fear just to even get in an airplane. But once I overcame that emotional struggle, once I had that opportunity to have my feet, my one right foot on the yoke and my left foot, of course, I had that on the throttle. I experienced what it was like, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I knew from the first time I was in a single-engine airplane that I would become a pilot.
When you're flying, are you afraid that something may go wrong that you might not be able to handle?
I think that's something that all pilots have to keep in mind, is that, there can be an instant where the engine fails or anything can happen. And so that's one of the things that you are prepared to do as a student pilot. You have to learn to think through, what if something happened wrong now? And you would immediately have a plan of action, and you figure out, where will I be able to land? You immediately go through a process, and that's something that you get trained to do, when in one of your first flight lessons. So yes, I think every pilot is afraid that might happen, but you're also prepared for something to happen, and that's part of the training as a pilot.
Has flying changed you?
I think it has. In many ways, it's my greatest physical accomplishment. There's so much going on when you're flying an airplane, and I think for me to know that I was given a certification, I can fly, and the majority of the world doesn't even know how to fly. It's really a great feeling, and even to be up in the air and flying around and look around and realize that I'm the one behind these controls. There's nothing like it to know that I'm in control of flying an airplane in the sky without anyone else. It's the most empowering experience. I'll just put it like that: the most empowering and freeing experience.
You just spoke about fear, and I believe that fear is probably the number one thing that keeps us from following our dreams. As a motivational speaker, what would you say to our listeners to get them to overcome their fears and to go after what they want in life?
Well, I think first we have to realize that fear is something we've created, and that's why I love the saying that fear, F-E-A-R, stands for false evidence appearing real. So once we realize that this is something that is a creation of our own, it's not something that we should really be afraid of. And once that understanding is processed, we realize there isn't really much that we should be afraid of. If fear is a creation of our own, then we can also destroy that same thing that we've created.
Jessica, what would you attribute your attitude and ultimately your successes?
I have to give credit to my parents. They were wonderful in raising me in the way they did, and my dad has said, I've never once shed a tear about your birth condition. So he never saw me a victim of a handicap or a disability. He saw me as, just as me. And my mom always told me, you can do anything you want to do. And they were right. And they did a wonderful job of raising me, I think, and so they deserve a lot of credit, as well as my profound faith and how I've really grown from someone who used to ask the question, why me? Why am I in this situation? To now asking, why am I so blessed? And it's been a journey in faith, and definitely something that has helped me to mature into a grateful person. So I think my parents, they did a wonderful job. My faith played a huge part. and definitely making the choice to be positive, the choice to see and appreciate what I have as opposed to what I don't have is very important as well.
Taekwondo, scuba diving, surfing, swimming, flying. Is there anything that the loss of your arms has stopped you from accomplishing in your life?
I think the fact that I don't have arms gives me even more reason to do something. So it hasn't really stopped me. I mean, there's two things I haven't figured out how to do. I always joke about I haven't figured out how to tie my hair in a ponytail, and I haven't figured out yet how to rock climb. And the way I phrase it, I haven't figured it out, I think it's helpful because it means it's still possible. And I think so if people ask me, is there anything you can't do? I say there isn't anything we can't do, but there are a few things we haven't figured out how to do. And it leaves a lot more room for possibility when you say that you haven't figured it out as opposed to, I can't do that.
So there are no excuses for us?
No, I don't think there should be.
In describing you, I've heard people use words like heroine, superwoman. How does that make you feel?
I think it's great to be a role model, and if I can be a role model, it's wonderful. But I also want to make sure that people realize not to set me apart from other people because I'm just like everyone else in that regard, that everyone can make the choice to be empowering, to go out and set a goal for themselves and achieve that. So they're just as capable. So as long as any of those titles don't set me apart and say that they can't be or come to that level, then as long as they don't set me apart in that regard, then I think it should be great. It's great to be a role model. It's a blessing to me. And as long as people realize, they can do just as much in their own lives as obviously she can, because if she can do all that without any arms, then what is there that I can't do? And I hope that kind of question comes up when people realize what I've been able to accomplish.
Jessica, how did you develop the patience to persevere? So often we give up because we're just not patient enough to accomplish what we want to learn.
Patience is a virtue, and like they always say. And I think what goes with that is persistence, perseverance, all those P words, because persistence is something that I've had to have out of necessity in order to do even the most basic thing like learning how to dress. I had to be persistent and persevere through whatever obstacles and whatever trials that I had to go through in order to be able to be fully independent as I am today. So patience is critical. It's everything. If you're willing to stick with it and be persistent, that's one of the three things I talk about when I speak all over the world. As I say, we have to have the persistence. We have to hang in there. And Franklin Roosevelt once said, when you come to the end of the rope, tie a knot and hang on. So that's one of my favorite quotes as well now that I've heard that.
You just mentioned being a motivational speaker. What are some of the other lessons that you can share with our audience today?
I talk a lot about desire and fearlessness or courage. We talked a lot about fear already, I know, so I'd want to bring up desire. Desire is important for anything. If you really want something enough, you can have it. If you're set on a goal, you can achieve it if you really want it. If you have that desire, someone once said that desire is 80% of success, and I think that's absolutely true. So whatever we so desire, we can have if we want it enough. I also talk about the importance of acceptance. All of us, we all have our own challenges in life, whether they're physical, whether they're financial or psychological or emotional. Even a fear can be a challenge and an emotional challenge. So we all have our own challenges, and we have to first of all accept what we're given, what we have, or whatever circumstances we have in our life. And when we get to that acceptance, I think then we can move forward with figuring out how to overcome the challenge and how to face that challenge.
For a moment, if you could speak from your heart directly to a listener that might be tuning in right now who's going through some type of a challenge, who is at that point where he or she is angry at God, who is wondering why it's happening to him or her, what would you say to that person from your heart?
First thing that comes to mind for my heart is hang in there. Hang in there and be patient. Keep a strong faith. And it may be hard to see right now, but I think giving it some time and giving it the opportunity, you'll be able to see whatever it is that you're going through, the big picture, I guess, because maybe the challenge is either helping you to become a better person, to become a stronger person. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see that process, but in, giving it some time and patience, you'll be able to see that big picture and what purpose and plan that God has. But we have to hang on to our faith, even though it can be very tough.
Jessica, in 30 seconds or less, what would you like our listeners to walk away with from this interview?
I hope that everyone can walk away with the belief that God has a plan in all of us, and that if we are faithful to Him and if we're accepting of whatever it is our challenge is, we can really turn whatever it is that we have, whatever difficulty or obstacle we have, we can turn it into something positive. We can grow from it, and we can use it to better the world. And all of us have the opportunity to make that choice, and that choice is ultimately up to us.
Jessica, thank you so much. I'm really happy that you had the opportunity to spend some time with us today. I think your message is very important, and I think that your life is a living example that it's time for us to stop focusing on what we don't have and to start appreciating our gifts and blessings that we all do have. And I thank you again so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back. It's time for this week's Medical Minutes. Our guest today is fitness expert Bob Greene, the founder of the Best Life Diet Plan. Bob is known for being Oprah's personal trainer. His bestsellers, The Best Life Diet, Total Body Makeover, and Get With the Program have sold nearly 10 million copies. Bob is the author of the new book, 20 Years Younger.
Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for joining us. Bob, the words on the cover of your book, look younger, feel younger, be younger. When you say 20 years younger, you're not just talking about looking 20 years younger. You say that it's possible for us to get our bodies to function like we're 20 years younger. How is that possible?
Well, I'm glad you worded it that way, because that's the key. Your looks can reflect how you're feeling and how you're functioning. It's that function. I look at myself, I'm in mid-50s, and I can honestly say that in many areas I'm stronger than I was in my 20s, and I was active in my 20s. It takes hard work, it takes a commitment, but it can be done, and you just translate that into improved quality of life, and most likely quantity of life as well.
Now, Bob, your program that you describe in the book is built around 4 pillars: exercise, nutrition, skincare, and sleep. For those of us in midlife that have done so much damage to ourselves, is it too late for us to reverse what we've done and make these lifestyle changes?
No, it's never too late, and the irony about it all is that, take exercise, for example, as well as all the pillars. There's a natural protection to many diseases and a lot of the processes that wear on us from an aging standpoint when you're in your 20s and 30s. But in your 40s, the rules change, and in your 40s is when you benefit to such a greater extent employing these strategies. So now is the time, if you're even in mid-30s, up to 60, even 70, if you employ these things, you'll benefit even more so than somebody younger than you.
So, Bob, let's talk a little bit about some of the effects of aging on our body. And in the book, you discuss some aging accelerators. So can you tell us a little bit about what happens to us on a physical level as we age, and what are some of the things that are causing this process to accelerate?
Well, let's just look at the different pillars. The first one, exercise. We know you accelerate aging much more than we ever thought by just being inactive, and most of us are inactive, whether it's because of computers or automation, even in the kitchen. We used to get more exercise running a household than we did in the past. We were meant to move, and when we don't, we expose ourselves to just every known disease. When you talk about nutrition, we know that there are certain foods that have these nutrients that help us age, and by the same token, there are compounds that most of us eat that accelerate aging: trans fat, saturated fat, sodium. Also, how we prepare food. High heat, meat cooked at high heat has these compounds, ironically called AGEs, that age us, and very detrimental. When it comes to skin care, it's mostly about the oxidizing of your skin as well as the tissues of your body. And with simple removing the dead layer of skin every day, and then washing it away, and then putting in a nourisher, not just a moisturizer, something that triggers oxygen content to the skin as well as new cell growth, you can have great strides in how your skin looks, feels, and reacts. It comes younger physiologically. And finally, sleep. Boy, if there's an underrated pillar, it's sleep. It accelerates aging in all the areas. If you're not sleep, really hard to exercise. We know that if you don't get enough sleep, your nutrition habits go downhill. We know that. Sleep and skin, intimately tied. If you get enough of it, you lower your risk of most diseases. If you're not, you increase the risk of every known disease virtually.
Bob, we touched a little bit upon exercise. And in addition to exercise, what types of activities can keep us young and stimulated?
The important thing on fitness, many people kind of know that cardiovascular fitness is really important and the strength training is really important. But what they don't realize is that we lose flexibility as we age, we lose balance, we lose agility, and we lose hand-eye coordination. So testing those by playing tennis or badminton or throwing darts or just general sports of pedaling a bicycle, test those abilities and maintain them throughout our life. So it's really important to do lifetime sports as well as train your balance as well as your agility.
And you also say that it's important to remain socially active as we age. Why is that important?
Well, we just know from studies that two things tease out. When you look at people above 80 and another subgroup, those live over 100 and are vibrant, two things are very noteworthy, and they live active lives and they're very active socially. And so we do know that friends and interactions affect our mood, affect our stress level, and also affect how we view the aging process.
Bob, thank you so much for being here. I've really enjoyed the time that we've been able to spend together.
Thanks so much for having me on today.
We'll be right back.
Are you having trouble getting your Z's? You are not alone. In fact, 60 million adults struggle with insomnia in the United States each year. I'm Dr. Lynn Corrigan, an anti-aging and regenerative medicine physician with the Active Center for Health and Wellness in Hackensack, New Jersey. Sleep is a cornerstone of health, and most people who have chronic insomnia are at increased risk for cardiovascular disease, obesity, and even diabetes. Even though many medical and social factors can lead to insomnia, the mainstay conventional treatment is still based on the sedative medications. These sedatives are not without problems. Dependence on them and rebound effects are known to cause insomnia. So what can you do to get a good night's sleep? Get regular exercise and make a point to relax every day. Limit the use of caffeine and alcohol, and don't work or watch TV in bed. Alternatives to sleep medications are melatonin and valerian root. Melatonin is a hormone that regulates sleep and dreaming and has anti-inflammatory effects. A growing number of studies suggest that melatonin may have cancer-fighting properties also. The sustained release forms are more likely to maintain good levels throughout the night. Valerian root is a botanical that does not impair movement or thinking abilities. It is not addictive, but may require weeks of nightly use before it produces an effect. It is available as a tea. For more information, visit us on the web at theactivecenter.com.
You've heard about thermography for early detection of breast cancer, but did you know that thermography screening can help detect an array of other health conditions? Hi, I'm Lisa Mack, a certified thermographic technician and a holistic nutritionist and the owner of Lisa's Thermography and Wellness, located in Short Hills, New Jersey. So, what does a thermographic technician look for? When conducting a full-body thermography, first we check the cerebral vascular region to look for blockages in the carotid artery. Next, we check to see if there's oral inflammation that can suggest periodontal disease, tooth decay, or other pathologies. We check for lymphatic congestion that can be related to colds, flu, or drainage from dental pathology or a chronic sinus problem. We do a thyroid screening that measures radiant heat beneath the skin surface. This tells us if there are any thyroid abnormalities. We look at the spine and can see spinal inflammation or hypothermia areas. This is a good indicator of where the problem areas are so you can correlate with your doctor. We look at the abdomen area. At times, abnormal findings can be due to gut inflammation. We look at the extremities. Sometimes hands may be cold in relation to the rest of the body. This may be due to pathology involving the nervous system, thyroid, or other metabolic systems. These findings may prompt your physician to recommend an array of simple lifestyle changes that can go a long way in changing the physiology of your body. For more information, visit lisasthermographyandwellness.com.
Do you feel comfortable in your home? Is your home's energy inviting? Do you have a favorite area designated for you to unwind? Hi, I'm Roxanne D'Angelo, a certified Reiki master and intuitive energy healer from Pure Balance Center in Clifton. I use a holistic approach toward clearing energetic obstacles from our personal environments. Knowing that everything is made of energy and vibrates at different frequencies, are you aware that what you have in your home, how you display it, and how you take care of it affects everyone living in your home, either physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? The great news is we can change the energy field of our environments by implementing some daily practices. Here are some quick tips on clearing your home's energy field. Don't look at the big picture. Start the process of decluttering a small space that means the most to you, moving at a pace that's comfortable. Any belongings on the floor will create stagnant energy. Designate new homes for these items and feel the energy lift. Raise the vibration and purify the air in any space by adding live plants. You could never have enough. For more information, visit us on the web at crystalclearenergies.com or call us at 201-615-0960.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that this information is for educational purposes only and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, you can visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, take part in the book club, sign up for the mailing list, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.